Hello and welcome to Get a Grip on Rebates, brought to you by Light Efficient Design and their Solera solar lighting. We're highlighting today the hybrid 365 LED solar area light brought to you by Solera. This hybrid product is game-changing technology that leverages both solar and line voltage to power its super bright LED area lights, powering them 24/7. It has an intelligent control module that knows when to switch from cost-free solar power to line voltage only when its long life, 50-hour battery life is depleted. It's an all-in-one design, delivers high performance and ease of use and installation and adjustability. It's really unlike any other solar lighting that you have used in the past. So get your hands on a hybrid 365 from Solera Solar Lighting and Light Efficient Design. Hello and welcome to Get a Grip on Rebates. This is Juan Blacker. Got with me as always, John Wilson. How are you, John?
I'm doing great today. Thanks.
Excellent, excellent. Friday, the 2nd of October. I can't believe how fast time goes. The year is flying by. Thinking about today's conversation, I wanted to talk about, something you got behind you. Talk about cannabis.
It is harvest season, and it is the season that utilities, if they haven't already, they are waking up to the cannabis industry, being in their backyards. And distributors, I think this is what we got to talk about, right? How do they fit into the mix? It's really interesting. Where are they at with regard to this industry?
That's exactly right. So kind of out of the blue, we talk about utility rebates, we talk about lighting on this show, but here I am throwing out cannabis as the topic. Well, let me explain a little bit why before we get into the details and how distributors fit in the mix. As we know, we're here in Oregon, you and I, but throughout the country, more and more states are going to legal cannabis growing. More and more states, lots of states already have medical growing. For those who don't know, cannabis is incredibly energy intensive in its production. Most of the states that have legal grows require indoor grows, and those indoor grows have a ton of resources they use, both in, or not just both, but in lighting, in HVAC, in water, in pumps, in climate control, right? So the utilities are definitely interested. What are you seeing from the utilities you're working with, John? I mean, what are they talking about when it comes to cannabis?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the first question for a lot of these utilities, especially the utilities tend to be really risk averse, and so utilities are typically kind of slow to get into the game, but increasingly, as precedents are set, they are now see it's okay to get involved, and they're actually rushing to get involved, both because they're eager for the efficient load growth, and also because there's big opportunities to get, the regulatory savings by working with, a single customer. We're seeing utilities, it's not unheard of at all. They're paying 6-figure incentives out and claiming millions of kilowatt hours saved. What blows me away though, Juan Carlos, just thinking about this industry. I mean, it's almost become a platitude that you hear from people in the cannabis industry. They're like, don't treat us like industry. We're different. And to a degree, they're right. There's some pushback on that. It's like, you're not as different. You're different like everybody else, kind of. But they are different in a lot of ways. But what's crazy? I was just thinking about is like, when we think about all the lights and rebates that we do and how distributors are involved currently, at least in this first or second generation of where we're at with high efficiency LED grow lights, most of these sales are happening direct to customers. And so distributors might be supplying like pipe and wire, but they're not typically providing the lights. And I frankly, I think that could change going forward. I think there's an opportunity for that to change.
Yeah, I agree. Talking to some of my distributor colleagues, there's been a little bit of hesitation to jump into the cannabis space because of the what do we want to call it, a stigma, the illegality of it in some states. A lot of our distributor partners are multi-state or national or even international companies. So there is that stigma. But I know that we have that stigma on all sides, right? Not only do we have it from the distributors have a little bit of sensitivity to it, but the utilities do as well. A lot of utilities have federal funding or have federal mandates. And then we also have the growers and the producers themselves who have battled against utilities in the dark days of the illegal cannabis trade. So there's all of that. God, what's the word I'm looking for? All of that confluence of history and feeling that come into the development of even thinking about cannabis and the cannabis production as a space to do rebates. Before we dig deep into the distributors, and I know that's what you want to do, but let's talk about that, because that's an issue. So how are the utilities and the growers and the distributors get around that stigma that comes with cannabis?
Yeah, boy, you're right. I got to tell you something super funny. I was at a conference beginning of this year down in San Diego, the Indoor Ag Conference, Indoor Ag Energy Solutions Conference. And all these awesome cultivators down there. And I'm getting ready to go up on stage. And this guy leans over to me, knowing that I'm like the utility guy. And this guy's a cultivator. And he whispers, he goes, do you think utilities have any clue how much the cultivators hate them and distrust them? and I was like, whoa, whoa. And then I was like, I got to have a response to this. And then I was like, well, man, I know people who have been stealing power for 10 years. So like, I think it kind of goes both directions. I think it's time for a reset. We need like the Dayton Accords or some sort of peace conference to kind of hit the reset, because you use the word confluence, and that's the right word. Where the utility industry is going and where this legal industry is going, it's coming out of the shadows. And I think both sides kind of need to do a little reset, get to know each other, because going forward, it's regulated, it's legal, and both sides kind of need each other, especially with cost compression and the way that, if you're working with utilities and want to take advantage, especially with these projects, you need to be working with them well in advance, not buying your lights first and then going back and asking for the rebate.
Right. Absolutely. And, I was at that conference as well. It was a really great conference. A lot of different. We had policymakers there. We had growers, cultivators. We had plenty of utility presence. We had implementation presence. We had industry, the lighting manufacturers, the HVAC manufacturers, were all there, starting to discuss how energy in the indoor ag space is really what the future holds for them. So let's talk about the distributors a little bit, because you're right. Most of the sales right now to cultivators happen direct to consumer, or direct to the cultivators. How do distributors even get into this space?
Yeah, I don't think I've got the panacea or magic bullet answer for it, but what my gut tells me, when I think about my favorite distributors and some of the ones that in my mind are really successful, yes, they care about the product they're selling. There's a lot of good product on the market. Like let's be frank, right? It's not like there's not one brand that's like the best brand and everything else is garbage. And that's true of grow lights too. Although I think there's a new learning curve that people have to get behind to understand that. When I think about like my favorite distributors and what makes them different, like they're advocates for the customers, right? Like they're able to connect with the customer, and they become like an education conduit. They become somebody who's like, let me help you bundle what you're buying and make this easier.
So John, hey, I want to play on that, what you just said. So I absolutely agree that distributors are there for the customers. They want to deliver good products. So let's step back again. I keep making you step back, but are we there when it comes to grow lights, right? I know a lot of cultivators have had their, quote, recipe for lighting and how they want to grow. They've been using inefficient technology in lighting technology for ages now. Are we there with grow lights? Are the LEDs there? Do we have good quality, efficient grow lights that do the job?
Yeah, that is a great question. And like what a typical flow right past that, right? I feel like I just revealed myself if it wasn't already clear. Um, so I'm going to give two answers. I'm going to give some professional grade equivocation here, just to annoy people on both sides of the issue. Um, yeah, is the technology there? I think 100% the technology is there. Like in terms of the LED lighting is there. We know you can grow with it. We know it's more controllable. We know it's a more efficient light source. So yes, the technology is there. Does that mean it's ready right now, prime time for everybody? No, not at all. You mentioned growers got like the special sauce that they like to
Right, the
roll with,
recipe.
and for a lot of people, even though I think every cultivator knows that heat is one of the number one issues that you have to deal with in an indoor egg space, for our novice audience out there who maybe isn't hip to the indoor egg growing, cannabis requires, I shouldn't say requires, cannabis can use exceptionally high levels of lighting, exceptionally high levels of lighting. So there's a whole bunch of plants where it's like after you get above a certain light level, PPFD, we would say, you're actually, it's counterproductive. It's like you're wasting energy and you're hurting the plant and you're going to have a less good product. Cannabis and tomatoes, to put everybody back in their comfort zone, are two examples of plants where like we haven't even really hit the high end threshold of how much light it can take. And with all that light comes heat, and the heat obviously affects the climate zone. And so not every grower is ready to just jettison everything they know about their ecosystem and go with this much more efficient light source. I want to say one more thing that I heard from a cultivator that I think matters here. He said, this really surprised me. He told me, you know, guy's been growing for 20 plus years. He said, strains that I used to have that I used to think were not commercial under my HID lights, those strains crush under LED. And strains that he used to grow, popular cultivars that just did wonderful under LED lights, or excuse me, under HID lights, a lot of times they don't work as well. So people have to figure it back out again. It's tough.
It's a brave new world, right? What we're trying to do, or what we're trying to do in terms of energy efficiency and cannabis, right? And I think it's important to state though that again, going back to our distributors, the market's huge on this. We have grows happening all over the country, in all different states, legal, medical, in some cases still illegal. But the grows are there. The need to save energy is there. The utilities are starting to see that, are starting to get comfortable with the idea of cannabis, and are actually starting to see, I think, see a growth, not just in cannabis, but as you mentioned, tomatoes and other plants that are being grown indoor. And so you see a convergence to where cannabis sort of really starting to push the industry, push LED manufacturers and other manufacturers to create more efficient product, but that becomes the catalyst to actually grow a whole new industry, which you and I, and by that conference we went to in February, the last conference we went to before COVID, that conference, we started discussing indoor ag or indoor agriculture instead of specifically cannabis. And that's an important change that has happened, and one I'd like to discuss with you more.
Well, I think we can continue on that route. You know, if I had a distributor at the table with me right now, I think the two things that I would really stress are, you know, you said it's a brave new world. If they want to get into this game, if they want to position their company in a place where they're able to be an advocate, support customers, and get a piece of this action, they need to be willing. You know, you can't talk about indoor egg or cultivation. You can't talk about lighting in the indoor egg space the same as you talk about lumens are for humans, right? If you go talk to a cultivator and you're dropping lumens, they're going to laugh you out of the building. So it really behooves people. It's like you need to do your education. It's a different set of metrics. You need to, you know, and there's phenomenal resources out there. Design Lights Consortium has a horticulture QPL. It's in the incipient stages. It's not like the be all end all. Resource Innovation Institute has got some phenomenal resources to help people learn the new terms and nomenclature behind this industry. But even so, before we even talk about this broader, you said indoor egg, the phrase that I think people should start recognizing or using if they don't want to say cannabis every other sentence is
Right.
controlled environment agriculture. That's sort of the broad brush
Right.
phrase that we're using.
Absolutely.
But when we look at industries that are growing, this is no pun intended. This industry is growing, and distributors, I think, are going to have a chance, especially because of the relationships and their opportunity to bundle services to make a move here.
Right. Hey, that's absolutely true. And I think that's a great place to end today's discussion on this controlled environment agriculture. But that being said, there's a lot left to say. So I think if you're okay with it, John, I think for our next episode, we'll continue on this discussion of controlled environment agriculture, talk a little bit more about what the utilities are offering, how customers can use those offers, and also talk more about how the distributors can get more involved. Sound good?
That sounds great.
Awesome.
Fun talking.
Thanks again to our sponsor, Light Efficient Design, that bring you the Hybrid 365 solar area light, part of their Solera solar lighting line.